Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The receipt was dated 3 weeks ago. I stood in my walk-in closet at 2:47 in the morning, the small strip of paper trembling between my fingers. The overhead light was too bright, flattening every color and making the walls, the clothes, even my own hands look harsh and unforgiving. I had come in here looking for my gray cardigan because I was cold. The bedroom had felt like a freezer lately, even though Brandon kept the thermostat at 72 degrees. But it was not the temperature that made me cold. It was him. I found the receipt in the inside pocket of his navy blazer. I was not searching for anything. I had just brushed against the jacket while reaching for my sweater on the top shelf, and the blazer slid off the hanger. When I picked it up, the paper slipped out and landed face up on the carpet like it had been waiting for me. Lacy Dreams Boutique. That was the name at the top. I knew that store. It was the expensive lingerie shop downtown, the one with the red awning and window displays that made you blush when you walked past. I had mentioned wanting to go there once about 6 months ago, when things between Brandon and me still felt normal, when he still touched me, when he still looked at me like I was someone he wanted. He had laughed and said it was overpriced, a waste of money. But here it was, a receipt for $247. For items I had never seen. For items I had never worn. For items that had never come home to me. I sat down on the small ottoman in the corner of the closet, my cardigan forgotten on the floor. My hands were shaking so badly the receipt rattled like a leaf in the wind. I read the item descriptions 3 times, hoping I had misread something, hoping maybe he had bought something for me and hidden it somewhere for a surprise. But I knew better. Brandon had not touched me in 3 months. 3 months of sleeping on opposite sides of our king-sized bed. 3 months of excuses. Too tired from work, stressed about a big case, not feeling well. 3 months of me reaching for him in the dark and finding only his cold back turned toward me. I had tried everything. I cooked his favorite meals: pot roast with roasted vegetables and garlic mashed potatoes, honey-glazed salmon with jasmine rice, the lemon pound cake he loved. I bought new dresses, changed my hair, wore the perfume he used to say drove him crazy. I suggested date nights, weekend getaways, marriage counseling. Every idea was met with a dismissive wave or a vague, maybe later, Amara. Work is just a lot right now. Every night I lay awake wondering what was wrong with me. Was I not pretty enough anymore? Not thin enough, not interesting enough, not exciting enough? I had scrutinized myself in the bathroom mirror until I hated my own reflection. I cried in the shower so many times I lost count. But now, sitting in my closet holding a receipt for lingerie I would never wear, everything suddenly made sense. There was nothing wrong with me. There was someone else. I did not know how long I sat there. The house was silent except for the low hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of Brandon snoring in our bedroom. Our bedroom. The same room where I had been begging for scraps of affection while he saved himself for another woman. My phone buzzed on the dresser outside the closet door. I ignored it. I could not move. I felt like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that made me human. We had been married for 5 years, together for 8. I had given this man everything. My trust, my loyalty, my best years. I turned down a job offer in Atlanta because he did not want to leave our city. I put off having children because he said we were not ready yet, that we needed to be more financially secure. I shrank myself to fit into his life, and now I was discovering that his life had no room for me at all. The tears came, hot and silent. They rolled down my cheeks and dripped onto the receipt, smudging the ink. Part of me wanted to march into the bedroom, flip on the lights, and throw the paper in his face. Part of me wanted to scream until my throat was raw. But a smaller, quieter part told me to wait. Do not show your hand yet, Amara. Think first. Be smart. That voice sounded like my grandmother. Grandma Ruth had raised me while my mother worked double shifts at the hospital. She taught me that a woman's greatest power was her patience. Fools react, she always said. Wise women respond. I folded the receipt carefully and slipped it into the pocket of my robe. Then I wiped my face with the back of my hand, took 3 slow breaths, and turned off the closet light. When I walked back into the bedroom, Brandon was still sleeping, his mouth slightly open, completely unaware his wife had just discovered his secret. I climbed into bed beside him and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. The next morning, I made breakfast like nothing had happened. Scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, whole wheat toast. Brandon came into the kitchen wearing his charcoal suit, the one that made him look like the successful attorney he was. He barely glanced at me. "I might be late tonight," he said, pouring himself coffee. "Big meeting with the partners." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "Okay." He paused, looking at me over the rim of his mug. For a moment, I thought he might say something else, something human. But then he just grabbed his briefcase and walked toward the door. "See you later," he called over his shoulder. The door closed behind him, and I was alone. I sat down at the kitchen table and looked around at the life I had built. The custom cabinets I picked out, the backsplash tiles I installed with my own hands, the herb garden on the window sill I tended every morning. All of it felt like a stage set now, a pretty backdrop for a play that had never been real. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. It was a text from my best friend, Tiffany. "Brunch Sunday. Miss your face." I typed back, "Yes. I need to see you." She responded immediately. "Everything okay?" I stared at those two words for a long time. Nothing was okay. My husband was buying lingerie for another woman while refusing to touch his own wife. My marriage was a lie. My life felt like a lie. But I was not going to fall apart. Not yet. I typed, "We need to talk Sunday," then set my phone down. I got ready for work on autopilot. I put on my emerald green blouse, the one that brought out the gold in my brown skin. I did my makeup carefully, foundation, concealer to hide the dark circles, mascara, deep berry lipstick. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see a broken woman. I saw a woman who had just woken up. A woman who was done begging. A woman who was about to stop chasing a man who clearly did not want to be caught. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange haze. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner, and slept beside a stranger. Underneath the surface, something was shifting inside me. I stopped initiating contact with Brandon. When he came home late, I did not ask where he had been. When he said he was tired, I simply said goodnight and rolled over. When he sat on the couch scrolling through his phone with that faint private smile, I pretended not to notice. Instead, I watched. I noticed the way he angled his phone away from me, the new cologne he had started wearing, woodsy and expensive, nothing like the scent I had given him last Christmas. The gym bag that now lived in his car instead of the garage. Each detail was another piece in the puzzle. Not because I needed more proof, the receipt had been enough, but because I wanted to understand exactly what I was dealing with before I decided what to do. One night, about a week after finding the receipt, Brandon reached for me in bed. His hand landed on my hip and I tensed. "Amara," he murmured, his voice low. "It has been a while." I lay perfectly still. For the first time in months, he was touching me, but something felt wrong. His hand felt wrong on my body, like it did not belong there anymore. "I thought you were tired," I said softly. He sighed and pulled his hand back. "I am." "Forget it." He rolled over, and within minutes he was snoring. I stared at the ceiling and wondered who he had been thinking about when he reached for me. Because in that moment, I was certain it had not been me. Sunday arrived, and I drove to meet Tiffany at our usual brunch spot, a cafe with big windows and a patio that looked out onto a busy street. She was already there, her box braids piled high, wearing a bright coral dress that matched her energy. Tiffany had always been the bold one, the loud one, the one who said what everyone else was thinking. As soon as she saw my face, her smile faded. "Girl," she said, standing to pull me into a hug. "What is going on?" We sat, ordered mimosas, and I told her everything. The cold bed, the excuses, the distance, the receipt from Lacy Dreams Boutique. By the time I finished, Tiffany's jaw was tight and her eyes were blazing. "So what are you going to do?" she asked. I took a slow sip of my drink and set it down carefully. "I do not know yet," I said. "But I know I am done begging him to love me." Tiffany reached across the table and took my hand. "Whatever you decide, I am with you," she said. "You hear me? I am with you." I squeezed her hand, feeling something in my chest crack open. Not despair this time, something like relief. For the first time in months, I did not feel completely alone. 2 weeks after finding the receipt, I found the rest. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Brandon had come home from work, eaten the dinner I made, and announced he was going to take a shower. He left his phone on the kitchen counter, something he never did anymore. Usually it was glued to his hand or tucked in his pocket. Tonight, he forgot. The phone sat by the fruit bowl, its dark screen reflecting the overhead light. I stood at the sink, washing dishes and staring at it, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I had 2 choices. I could ignore it and keep living in uncertainty, or I could look and know for sure. I chose to know. I dried my hands quickly on a towel. Upstairs, the shower ran. The old pipes groaned in the walls. I had 10 minutes, maybe less. Brandon's passcode had always been his mother's birthday. He had never changed it. My fingers moved almost on their own, and the screen unlocked. For a moment, everything looked normal: email, sports apps, news alerts. Then I opened his messages. Her name jumped out at me. Rochelle. The text thread went back 8 months. 8 months of conversations I had never seen. 8 months of lies. At first, the messages were professional, discussions about depositions and court dates. She worked at his firm, a paralegal named Rochelle King. I pictured the dozens of women I had shaken hands with at firm events, wondering if she had been one of them. Then, around the 3-month mark, the tone shifted. I cannot stop thinking about last night, Rochelle had written. Brandon's reply, neither can I. When can I see you again? My throat closed. I kept scrolling. The messages became explicit. Photos. Detailed descriptions of things they had done together. Hotel reservations on weekends he claimed to be at conferences. Pictures of Rochelle in delicate lace, the exact shades and styles from that boutique receipt. The shower was still running. I kept going, past the sexting, past the hotel plans. The most recent messages hurt the most, not because they were graphic, but because they showed exactly who my husband had become. Rochelle, when are you going to tell her? Brandon, soon. I just need to handle this carefully. She is fragile. Rochelle, she is holding you back. You deserve better. Brandon, I know. Be patient. I have a plan. Rochelle, I am tired of waiting. Brandon, I told you cutting off intimacy is step 1. She will get frustrated and start fights. Then I will have grounds for the divorce. I will not look like the bad guy. There it was. His strategy in black and white. He had been denying me on purpose. Not because he was tired. Not because he was stressed. Because he wanted me to break down and give him an excuse to leave while he walked away looking innocent. A cold, steady calm settled over me. All those nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what was wrong with me. All those days I bent over backward, trying to make him happy. All that time, he was playing games with my heart like it was nothing. And I had almost let him win. The shower turned off upstairs. I took screenshots of everything, texts, photos, plans, and emailed them to myself. Then I deleted the screenshots from his phone, returned it to its place by the fruit bowl, and went back to the sink. When Brandon came downstairs in sweatpants and a t-shirt, I was drying the last pan. Smells good in here, he said, grabbing his phone. Roast chicken, I said, not looking at him. Your favorite. He grunted, sat on the couch, and pulled out his laptop. Probably emailing Rochelle to tell her his plan was working. His wife was still cooking dinner like a good little fool. I finished cleaning the kitchen and went upstairs. I sat on the edge of our bed staring at the wall, thinking about my grandmother's voice. Marriage was about choosing each other every day. Brandon had stopped choosing me a long time ago. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Brandon left early, supposedly for court. As soon as the door clicked shut, I opened my laptop and started researching divorce attorneys, property laws, bank accounts, anything that would teach me how not to drown when this marriage finally sank. I discovered that our house, which we bought after the wedding, was marital property. His retirement accounts and investments were subject to division. And in our state, proof of infidelity could influence the settlement, especially if marital funds had been used for the affair. I thought about those hotels, dinners, gifts. Every dollar he spent on Rochelle was a dollar taken from our life. By noon, I had a list of all the accounts I knew. Joint checking, savings, the credit cards, the mortgage, and the separate investment account he thought I did not know about. I pulled statements, saved them to a folder, and then picked up my phone. Law Office of Patricia Akonjo, a calm voice answered. How may I help you? I would like to schedule a consultation, I said. My voice sounded surprisingly steady. For a divorce. The appointment was set for the following week. I wrote it in my calendar as dentist and cleared my afternoon schedule. When Brandon came home that evening, I greeted him with a smile. I served his favorite pasta, asked about his day, listened to him lie about meetings and deadlines, and laughed at the right moments. Inside, I felt nothing. No longing, no anger, just a hard, clear resolve. Patricia's office was on the 14th floor of a glass building downtown. The waiting room had leather chairs, fresh flowers, and abstract art that probably cost more than my car. The receptionist greeted me by name and offered water. When Patricia walked out to meet me, she was exactly what I had hoped for. mid-40s, sharp eyes, short natural hair, a presence that filled the room. "Ms. Bennett," she said, shaking my hand. "Come in. Tell me why you are here." I had rehearsed a composed explanation, but what came out was simple and raw. "My husband is having an affair," I said. "He has been sleeping with another woman for at least 8 months. He has been deliberately withholding intimacy to make me start fights so he can blame the divorce on me. And I want to leave him without losing everything I have worked for." Patricia did not flinch. She picked up a pen. "Do you have evidence?" "Yes." I opened the folder on my phone and slid it across her desk. Text messages. Photos. Hotel confirmations. She scrolled through them with a neutral expression, then nodded. "This is very helpful," she said. "You are in a stronger position than you think, Ms. Bennett. Now tell me about your finances." For the next hour, we went through everything. The house, the accounts, my salary, his bonuses, the years I spent supporting his career. She explained the process: filing, serving papers, the waiting period, discovery, mediation. "How long does it usually take?" I asked. "It depends on how cooperative your husband is," she said. "A contested divorce can take 6 months to a year, sometimes longer. An uncontested one is faster. Based on what you have shown me, he is not going to like our terms. But he also will not like the idea of this evidence becoming public record." She leaned back, studying me. "I need you to keep things calm at home," she said. "Do not confront him about the affair yet. Do not tip your hand. Keep gathering documents. Open a bank account in your name only. Start moving small amounts of money. And find somewhere you can go when you are ready to leave." I walked out of her office feeling lighter than I had in months. I had a plan now. I was not trapped anymore. That Sunday, I drove to my grandmother's small brick house on the edge of town. The front yard was crowded with stubborn rose bushes and overgrown azaleas. Grandma Ruth sat on the porch with a glass of sweet tea and her worn Bible. "There is my girl," she said as I climbed the steps. "You look tired." "I am tired, Grandma," I said, sinking into the chair beside her. "Sit. Tell me." The words lodged in my throat for a moment, then burst out. "Brandon is cheating on me," I said. "I found proof. Messages. Pictures. He has a whole plan to make me look crazy, so he can leave me." Grandma Ruth did not gasp. She did not curse his name. She just nodded like she had been expecting this. "How long have you known?" she asked. "About a month." "And what are you going to do about it?" I told her about Patricia, about the plan to protect my money, about the way I had stopped chasing him and started quietly pulling away. She listened without interrupting, her weathered hands wrapped around her glass. When I finished, she set the glass down and looked at me. "You know what your granddaddy used to say?" she asked. "He used to say a man will show you exactly who he is if you pay attention. The problem is, most women are too busy trying to see who he could be." Tears stung my eyes. "I thought he loved me, Grandma." "Maybe he did once," she said gently. "But love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. And that man stopped choosing you a long time ago. The question is, when are you going to stop choosing him?" "I already have," I whispered. She squeezed my hand. "Good. Then you are halfway free." Over the next month, my life split into 2 layers. On the surface, everything looked the same. I went to work, joined conference calls, smiled in meetings. At home, I cooked, folded laundry, asked Brandon about his day. Underneath, I was building my exit. I opened a new bank account. I moved small amounts of money after each paycheck. I copied our tax returns, mortgage papers, and investment statements and saved them in a locked folder on my laptop and a flash drive in my purse. Tiffany spent 2 weekends driving around the city with me, looking at apartments. We walked through cramped studios and overpriced lofts before we finally found a 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with big windows and warm wooden floors. "It is perfect," Tiffany said, turning in a slow circle in the empty living room. "You can breathe here." I signed the lease, wrote a check for the deposit and first month's rent, and tucked the keys into my wallet. The apartment waited like a held breath. At home, Brandon remained oblivious. He came and went as he pleased, his phone buzzing with messages he thought I could not see. One night, he rolled toward me in bed again. "Hey," he murmured, sliding a hand under my shirt. "It has been a while." My body locked up. I pictured Rochelle's photos, her messages. I knew where his hands had been. "Not tonight," I said quietly. "I am not feeling well." He pulled back with an irritated sigh. "You never feel well anymore." I almost laughed at the irony. I had spent months begging him to touch me. Now he had the nerve to complain. I kept my face calm. Maybe I will feel better tomorrow. He muttered something and rolled away. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the moment arriving like a train in the distance. It was almost time. The morning I decided to stop pretending was ordinary. No fight, no dramatic scene. I woke up, looked at Brandon sleeping beside me, and realized I did not care what he thought anymore. I made breakfast for myself and did not fix a plate for him. "No breakfast?" he asked when he came downstairs, frowning at the empty stove. "We are out of eggs," I lied, slipping my shoes on. "There is cereal in the pantry." At work, I felt oddly clear. I was promoted into a lead role on a major campaign. My boss pulled me aside. "Whatever you are doing, keep doing it," she said. "You are on fire lately." I smiled and thanked her. For the first time in a long time, the word future did not make me flinch. The next week, Brandon noticed the shift. One evening, I sat on the couch reading while he scrolled through his phone. "You seem different lately," he said. "Different how?" I asked, eyes on the page. "I do not know. Distant." "I am just tired from work," I said, turning a page. He studied me for a long moment, searching for the old version of me, the one who clung and cried and begged. She was gone. The second week, he started trying. He came home early one night with red roses. "Thought you might like these," he said, holding them out like a peace offering. I took them, put them in a vase, and set them on the counter. "They are nice," I said. "Thank you. I was thinking we could go out to dinner this weekend," he added. "That Italian place you like." "I have plans with Tiffany this weekend," I replied. "Maybe another time." His jaw tightened. "You have been spending a lot of time with Tiffany. She is my friend." "I know. I just feel like we never see each other anymore." I looked at him then, really looked. He seemed more confused than hurt, like a man whose favorite toy had stopped responding to the usual buttons. "We see each other every day," I said. "We live together." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and finally shook his head. "Forget it." The following Tuesday, I left work early, drove home, and found his car gone. I moved quickly. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, personal files, photo albums, jewelry my family had given me. I packed it all into boxes, loaded them into my car, and drove to my new apartment. The rooms were empty and echoing, but when I set my boxes down in the living room, something in my chest loosened. I made 3 trips. When I was done, I returned to the house one last time. In our bedroom, the closet looked a little emptier but not obvious. If Brandon glanced, he might not notice anything missing at first. I slipped off my wedding ring and placed it on his dresser. No note. No explanation. Let him figure it out. That night, I ate takeout on the floor of my new living room. The silence was strange. No footsteps overhead, no television droning in another room, no phone vibrating with messages meant for somebody else. Just me, a paper bag, and a future I had chosen. Around 9, my phone lit up with Brandon's name. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts. "Where are you? Why is your ring on the dresser? Amara, answer your phone. This is not funny. Call me back." I set the phone face down and finished my food. The next morning, I blocked his number. Tiffany came over that evening with a bottle of wine and a Bluetooth speaker. "Look at you," she said, spinning slowly in the middle of my half-furnished living room. "Living free." "It does not feel real yet," I admitted. "It will," she said. "I am proud of you." 2 days later, Patricia emailed me the finalized divorce petition for approval. I read every line, my eyes catching on the words irretrievably broken and marital misconduct. At the bottom, I typed, "Yes. File it." The papers were served at his firm the following Thursday late morning. Patricia called me. "It is done," she said. "He has been served." "How did he react?" I asked. According to my process server, he went pale, asked to step into his office, and closed the door. "We will likely hear from his attorney soon." That afternoon, my assistant knocked on my office door. "Your husband is here," she whispered. "He says he needs to talk to you." I stepped into the lobby. Brandon stood near the glass doors in a navy suit, his expression tight. "We need to talk," he said. "There is nothing to talk about," I said. "You should speak to your attorney." "Amara, please." 5 minutes. That is all I am asking." Against my better judgment, I led him to the small courtyard behind the building. The autumn air was cool on my skin. He faced me, hands in his pockets. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded. "You moved out, you left your ring, you filed for divorce without even talking to me. You really do not know?" I asked quietly. "No, I do not. We were having problems, sure, but divorce? Just like that. I held his gaze. I know about Rochelle, I said. I know about the affair. I know about the hotels, the gifts, the lingerie from Lacy Dreams. His face drained of color. I kept going. I know about your plan to cut me off so I would start fights and you could blame everything on me. I have screenshots of every message. My attorney has them too. For several seconds, he just stared. Amara, I can explain, he finally stammered. I do not want your explanation, I said. I do not want your apology. I do not want anything from you, but what I am legally entitled to. We can go to counseling, he said quickly. We can fix this. I still love you. You do not love me, I replied. You love control. You love having options. You love the idea of walking away looking like the victim. That is not fair. What you did was not fair. This conversation is over. From now on, talk to my lawyer. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. Do not touch me. You are throwing away 8 years, he said. You threw them away a long time ago, I replied, then turned and walked back inside. I felt his stare burning into my back, but I did not look back. What followed were weeks of legal maneuvering. Brandon hired an attorney known for being aggressive. The first mediation session took place in a neutral conference room. He sat on one side of the table with his lawyer. I sat on the other with Patricia. His opening offer felt like an insult. A small cash settlement, me keeping my personal belongings, but waiving rights to his retirement accounts, the house, and investments. Patricia did not blink. My client is entitled to half of all marital assets, she said calmly. Given the documented evidence of your client's infidelity and misuse of marital funds, we believe the court would be sympathetic to awarding her more. His lawyer shifted, clearly uncomfortable. We are interested in resolving this privately and quickly, he said. My client values his reputation. Then he should have valued his marriage, Patricia replied. The first session ended without agreement, but the cracks were visible. The second session was nastier. His side tried to paint me as unstable, claimed I had abandoned the marriage. They even hinted at inappropriate closeness with Tiffany. Patricia slid a thick folder across the table. These are the messages between your client and Ms. King, she said. We have itemized the hotel stays and purchases made with marital funds. If you continue attempting to smear my client, we will file these as exhibits. Brandon's lawyer went quiet. Brandon stared at the wall, pretending he was somewhere else. When the discussion turned to the house, Patricia surprised him. My client is willing to relinquish her claim to the house, she said, in exchange for a larger share of liquid assets and full ownership of the marital vehicle in her possession. Brandon's head snapped toward me. He looked stunned, as if he had expected me to cling to that house like it was all I had left. I did not want those walls. They were soaked in betrayal. By the end of the second session, we had a framework. 60% of the retirement accounts in my favor, an even split of savings, liquidation of the investment portfolio, and him covering my legal fees. 2 days later, he appeared outside my new apartment building, leaning against his car. We need to talk, he said when I got out. We have already talked, I replied. In front of witnesses. Not about the settlement. About us. He stepped closer. His eyes were bloodshot. I ended things with Rochelle. It is over. I have been going to therapy. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. You want me back because you are losing, I said. Because the divorce is not going the way you planned. Because your parents are disappointed. You do not want me. You want your old life back. I want my wife back, he said. I want my marriage back. You should have thought about that before you tried to destroy me, I replied. Leave, Brandon. Do not come here again. If you do, I will file for a restraining order. For a second, his face twisted with anger. You are going to regret this, he said quietly. When you are alone and miserable, you will remember that I tried to make things right. The only thing I regret, I said, is not leaving sooner. His parents called a week later. Evelyn and Harold asked to meet at a quiet cafe. They arrived stiff and formal, dressed like they were attending a hearing instead of a coffee. Brandon told us you left him without warning, Evelyn said, fingers wrapped around her mug. He said you refused counseling. Did he tell you about the 8-month affair? I asked. About Rochelle? About his plan to starve me of affection until I exploded so he could blame everything on me. Their faces shifted as I laid printed copies of the texts in front of them. They read in silence, eyes moving down the pages, expressions tightening. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. Harold's jaw worked. When they finished, Harold pushed the papers back toward me. We did not know, he said quietly. We are sorry, Ms. Bennett. This is not how we raised our son. I believe you, I said. But it is who he chose to be. After that meeting, things moved quickly. Brandon's attorney returned with a new offer. The house fully in his name, all retirement accounts divided 60-40 as agreed, savings split, my attorney's fees covered, and no contest to the grounds for divorce. Patricia looked at me. This is a good deal, she said. You can fight for a little more, but it will cost time and energy. Do you want more, or do you want out? I thought about it. About the nights on the bathroom floor. About the boxes in my new apartment. About the business plan I had started sketching on a yellow notepad when I could not sleep. I want out, I said. The divorce finalized on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. Patricia called to tell me the judge had signed. You are officially divorced, Ms. Bennett, she said. I sat at my desk at work, staring at the spreadsheets on my computer as the words sank in. 5 years reduced to a file in a courthouse. That evening, Tiffany took me to our favorite little pasta spot from our college days. To new beginnings, she said, lifting her glass. To choosing myself, I replied, clinking mine against hers. In the months that followed, life did not magically become easy. There were lonely nights. There were unexpected waves of grief. But there was also something else, space. Space to think about what I wanted beyond being someone's wife. At work, my new confidence showed. I led campaigns that performed better than any in my department. Clients started asking for me by name. At home, my apartment slowly transformed. Plants appeared on the windowsills. Art went up on the walls. The couch I chose was comfortable, not just stylish. I bought bedding in colors I loved, deep blue and gold, not the neutral palette Brandon had insisted on. The idea of starting my own firm grew quietly in the back of my mind. I started sketching plans at night. Bennett Marketing Consulting. I wrote the name on a scrap of paper and left it on my fridge where I could see it every morning. 6 months after the divorce, I attended a regional marketing conference. During a break, I heard my name. Amara Bennett? I cannot believe it. I turned and saw a familiar face. Jared Foster, I said, laughing. Wow, it has been forever. Jared and I had gone to the same university. He had been the guy with the big ideas and bigger dreams. Now he ran a tech company that kept showing up in business articles. We found a quiet corner and caught up. I heard a little about what you went through, he said gently. I am sorry. Thank you, I said. But honestly, I am in a better place now. We talked shop. When I mentioned my consulting idea, his eyes lit up. You should absolutely do it, he said. There are so many small businesses that cannot afford big agencies. Someone with your experience could own that space. When you launch, call me. I can send people your way. His words pushed me over the edge. Within 2 months, I had registered my business, built a simple website, and given notice at my job. My boss was disappointed but supportive. You're going to do big things, she said. I can feel it. My first client was a neighborhood bakery trying to grow their online presence. I poured myself into their campaign, taking photos, writing captions, strategizing promotions. Their sales grew. They told their friends. Word spread. Jared kept his word and referred 3 more clients. Bennett Marketing Consulting grew faster than I expected. I worked too many hours, drank too much coffee, and loved every second of it. My work was mine now. My successes were mine. So were my failures. But even they felt better than living someone else's idea of a perfect life. Meanwhile, Brandon's carefully curated image started to crumble. Through mutual acquaintances and Tiffany's endless network, I heard snippets. A partner at his firm mentioned personal issues, hurting his performance. A former coworker hinted that his affair with Rochelle had become an open secret. The firm quietly removed him from the partnership track. Clients requested different attorneys. Then Rochelle was let go under the vague label of restructuring. When the scandal became too hard to contain, Brandon did what he always did. He deflected. He painted Rochelle as the aggressor, the one who tempted him. She was out of a job. He was out of a future at the firm. One evening, Tiffany texted me a link to a legal news article. Senior Associate Brandon Thompson departs firm, the headline read. The article cited declining performance and undisclosed personal reasons. I read it once, then closed it. I felt no satisfaction, just distance. That life was over. Almost a year after the divorce, Brandon appeared in my office lobby. My assistant buzzed me. There is a man here, she said. He says his name is Brandon Thompson. Do you want me to tell him you are unavailable? Part of me wanted to hide. Instead, I said, send him in. He stepped into my office in a suit that did not quite fit anymore. He looked older, thinner, tired. Thank you for seeing me, he said, hovering near the door. You have 5 minutes, I said. Then I have a client call. He sat, clasping his hands. I made a mistake, he began. I know you do not owe me anything, but I have been in therapy, I have been doing the work, and I finally understand why I pushed you away. I was afraid of needing you. Afraid of vulnerability. I sabotaged us because I did not know how to be honest with myself. Once, those words might have broken me open. Now, they sounded like lines from a script. You created distance by cheating, I said evenly. You created distance by planning to make me the villain. That is not fear. That is cruelty. I know, he said quickly. And I am sorry. I wake up every day regretting what I did. I thought the grass would be greener. It was not. I lost everything. My career, my reputation, my family. I want to try again. I want to build something new with you. No, I said. He blinked. Just like that. Just like that. No. I leaned back. I built an entire life after you tried to break me. I built a business. I built peace. I learned to like who I am without you. I am not going back to the woman who cried for you on bathroom floors. His expression hardened. You think you are better than me now because you have this little company? He scoffed, gesturing around my office. You live alone. You have no husband, no children. Is this really what you want? I smiled. I have myself, I said. For the first time in years, I have myself. That is more than you ever gave me. You are going to regret this, he said, standing. One day you are going to realize you threw away your chance at a family. I threw away a man who did not know how to be won, I replied. My chance at happiness is right here. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out. The door clicked shut. I sat very still, waiting for the trembling, the second-guessing, the ache. None came. All I felt was relief. I drove to Grandma Ruth's house that evening with a bouquet of flowers from a client event. She was on the porch, as always, the evening light soft on her face. There's my girl, she said. You look different. How? I asked, sitting beside her. Lighter, she said. Like somebody finally took that boulder off your back. I told her about Brandon's visit, about his speech, about my refusal. She listened, nodding slowly. You did right, she said. Some men change. Some men just change their tactics. You learned the difference. I thought I would feel sad, I admitted. I thought I would miss him. Do you? She asked. I thought about my apartment, my staff, my clients. The woman in the mirror now compared to the woman who used to count the hours until her husband came home and still felt unwanted. No, I said. I feel free. Grandma Ruth took my hand. That is what happens when you finally choose yourself, she said. Took you long enough. But you got there. A year after the divorce, we hosted a launch party for a new division of Bennett Marketing. We had moved into a bigger office. I had a team of 6 and clients across several states. We rented a rooftop downtown, strung lights, hired a small jazz trio, and filled the space with flowers and people who had believed in me. I stood by the railing in a maroon dress, looking out over the city, thinking about every version of myself that had led to this moment. The girl who said yes to Brandon's proposal without really asking herself what she wanted. The wife who begged for affection. The woman in the closet at 2:47 a.m. holding a receipt with trembling hands. Quite a view, Jared said, stepping up beside me with 2 glasses of sparkling cider. Quite a year, I answered, taking one. Our partnership had been a turning point. The campaign my firm ran for his company had blown past every metric. His referrals had helped my client list triple. In return, my work had helped his new product line take off. We had met for countless coffees and strategy sessions, slowly weaving a friendship that hovered on the edge of something more. I have been thinking about something, Jared said, leaning on the railing. When I first ran into you at that conference, I remembered the woman from college who always had the sharpest ideas. I could not understand how the world had not already figured out who you are. Life got in the way, I said quietly. Maybe, he answered. Or maybe life just needed you to go through all that so you could build this. He nodded toward the crowd, my team laughing with clients, Tiffany dancing in the middle of the floor, my mother talking with Patricia. Either way, I am glad you are here. He hesitated. I know timing is complicated, he said. But when you are ready, I would like to take you to dinner. Not a business dinner. A real one. I looked at him, at the hope in his eyes, at the quiet patience. A year ago, the idea would have terrified me. Now, it just felt like another choice, one I did not have to rush. Ask me again in a few months, I said. He smiled. I can do that. Later that night, after the speeches and the toasts and the laughter, I sat alone on the edge of the rooftop as the staff packed up. My phone buzzed with a text from Tiffany. Check your email. You're going to want to see this. It was a forwarded article. Another legal news site. Former associate Brandon Thompson parts ways with firm, the headline read. Below it, a polite paragraph about personal issues and mutual decisions. No scandal. No affair. Just a quiet exit from the world he once thought he owned. I read it, then locked my phone. Brandon's story was no longer mine to track. My life had expanded beyond him. The next morning, I drove out to Grandma Ruth's with a vase of leftover flowers from the party. She listened as I described the rooftop, the lights, the speech I had stumbled through, the way my staff had cheered anyway. Your granddaddy would be proud, she said, tapping my hand. So am I. As I drove back through my city, past the downtown building that now held my office, past the cafe where Tiffany and I had cried over mimosas, past the block where I first toured my apartment, I felt a quiet certainty settle into my bones. Brandon had believed cutting off intimacy would break me. He believed he could twist the story until I became the villain. He believed I would chase him until I lost myself completely. He was wrong. I stopped chasing. I walked away. I chose myself. And from the ashes of his betrayal, I built a life that finally felt like mine. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.